Welcome back to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Michael Hingson, author of Live Like a Guide Dog. Michael, great first and second segments there. You touched on something near the end of our last segment, and I'm wondering if you have any advice for people who are facing adversity and are struggling and seeing fear as a roadblock. It's preventing them from moving forward. What kind of advice do you have for them, and what should they start or stop doing?
I love the title of your podcast, Prepare for the Unexpected. And I think it's important that people understand you can prepare for the unexpected, not because you can anticipate it, but rather you can do things in your own life and you can take steps in your own life to be able to give you control over what happens to you. We had no control over the World Trade Center happening, and I haven't seen, even in the government reports, any evidence that tells me systematically and categorically that we could have predicted it happening. Maybe we could have. Maybe if departments had communicated more, we would have been able to stop it. But I don't know that. What I do know is that although we couldn't stop it, we had no control over it happening. We absolutely and totally, each one of us, have control and had control over how we dealt with it. So many people had that opportunity. I met one person later who was a firefighter. His brother was a police officer, and his brother died on September 11th. He decided to change and go off and be a policeman. And the reason was he said, I want to go shoot terrorists. I don't think that's a good reason, personally, for becoming a police officer. But we have control over how we deal with what happens. And I think that's always true in everything that we face. So when people are facing adversity, whether it's a job issue, whether it's something in our relationships with others, whether it's, do I trust this person or not? We need to step back. One of the things that I talk about in Live Like a Guide Dog is that you can learn to control fear. You can learn to be able to do the things that we talked about earlier in terms of dealing with trust. And the way you start that is at the end of each day, for example, take a couple of minutes as you're falling asleep. Think about what happened today. Think about how you reacted to different things and ask yourself, could I have reacted differently? Could I have done this better? And even the things that went really well, might I have been able to even improve them? But the things that didn't go well, you didn't fail. Something didn't go well. How do I make sure that doesn't happen again? What was it that caused a fear reaction in me? And the more of that analysis, that self-analysis, that introspection that you do every day, the better your mind will become, the mind muscle, if you will become at helping you deal with that and addressing issues of adversity. And you will learn that you have control over what you have control over. And mostly it's how you deal with it. It's not necessarily the adversity thing itself. If you're dealing with somebody on the job who's obnoxious, you need to look at, well, what can I do to address that? Or do I just need to go elsewhere? Is this person just not going to ever be someone that people want to be around? And the odds are, if it's happening to you, it's happening to other people as well. But you can learn to look at what goes on around you, and you can learn to be more like dogs. Be open to trust. That doesn't mean you trust arbitrarily and totally, but at least be open to it. And don't hesitate to say to other people, however you want to do it, I really do want to trust you, but I want you to trust me too. And either they will earn your trust and you will earn their trust, or that won't happen. And so you'll find out that if you really open yourself to the concept of trusting, that will help you in a significant way to start to learn not to fear so many things. But it's something that it takes a lot of practice, though, to do.
Mm-hmm. I liked what you said there too, that it helps with other situations, and that helps create your personal resilience
Yes.
when you're faced with other things. But what if you are facing things now and you're just too fearful of taking the step? Do you just start trusting, or what's something you can actually do
Well, if you're
to
really too
make a
fearful
change?
to, if you're really too fearful to take the step, you need to step back and go, why am I so fearful? What's going to happen? Am I looking at it the right way? At some point, if you have to take a step, whatever that is, you're going to have to make the decision to do it. I interviewed a person on the podcast who loved to swim in the Pacific Ocean at least every other day, 365 or leap year 366 days a year. And I asked him when we were talking on the air about the first time he decided to do that in the winter. And he said, you know, when I first decided to do it, and he, by the way, he swims without a wetsuit. He was walking toward the ocean, and he said, I noticed I was walking slower. And he said, I just suddenly realized either I'm going to do it or I'm not. And he jumped in. He said, within a couple of seconds, I was used to the water, and I've been doing it ever since. I've swum nose to nose with a dolphin and other things like that. That actually got us onto a long discussion about fear. And at some point, only you can make the decision about what you want to do regarding any situation. But you don't need to fear the situation, whatever it is. You have to decide that it's important to take whatever step you have to take. And you have to make the decision that you're going to do it in this way and why you're going to do it. And you can look as much as possible at what are the different outcomes that may occur, but you have to still eventually decide to make the choice to do it. So don't do it out of fear, do it out of conviction because you know it's what you need to do. And if you decide that because you've really studied it and thought about it, you'll find that fear will be on your side and help you to move forward to make the decision to do whatever it is you need to do.
And you might be surprised when you face some of these fears, the opportunities that might come from it or new experiences.
All too often.
Yeah, that you
All
may turn
too
around
often.
and say, wow, am I ever glad I finally did this?
Most of the time we fear things over which we have no control, but we're so afraid of them, it just continues to mushroom. But the reality is that most things that we're afraid of will never happen anyway.
Yeah, true. One of the other things you talk about is the human-animal bond. Can you tell us about that?
As I've said several times already, the thing about the human animal bond is it's a team, right? And whether it's a guide dog or just a pet, it still is true. You ought to set the rules and learn how to interact with your animal friend and treat them as a friend. You don't beat a dog because it doesn't do what you want. You need to figure out what it is that was going on. So dogs, you leave a dog home all day and it poops on the floor, and then you get mad and you beat the dog because it pooped. You shouldn't do that. Why did the dog poop? Didn't you let the dog out enough before you left? Is there a medical issue that means that your dog can't go all day without pooping on the floor? Or do you have to work with the dog to get the dog on a schedule so that they can do things? I have flown from California to Israel, which is about, by the time we got there, a 27-hour flight from time my dog went out till the next time he had a chance to go. Well, that's technically not true. We flew through JFK and they have these relieving rooms, but they're tile floors, right? Dogs know you don't go on tile floors. My dog knows you don't go on a tile floor, so he's not going to do that. So he went 27 hours, but I also prepared him by the amount I fed him before we left, when he got water and so on. He was fine. And so you have to learn to know your dog and remember they are what they are. And so you can deal with it. And if a dog does what you don't want, then you have to figure out why the dog did that. And most of the time, it's because you didn't set proper expectations and you didn't teach the dog what to expect. And you can deal with it. I've heard so many say, my dog could never be like your dog. My dog could never behave like your dog. I'm sure they can if you work it and if you teach them what to expect. And if you gain their respect and trust, then you have a team. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it takes time.
It does.
Happen. One command does not instantly stick.
No.
It's repetitive.
And positive rewards are important, and doing negative things don't help.
Right. I remember the example you give in your book. Oh, the dog starts name H.
Holland.
Holland, yes, and his nervousness on the buses.
Oh, that was a Klondike.
Fine.
Yeah,
yeah,
that was Klondike. Yeah, and he shook and shivered like Roselle did with thunder. And it just happens, right? And the only way to really deal with it is to be patient, be encouraging. And within a couple of days, it was all gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Not yelling and screaming or getting upset over it, because then
No.
you're even with a person. If you did that, well, then that person's not going to want to be around you. They
Well,
lose that
that's
trust,
right.
right?
That's right. You've got to look at them where they are and help them get to where they need to be, but you can help. Um, and I think we're all in one way or another teachers, or ought to be, and we need to learn how to teach and help other people and other creatures.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't do that.
No, we can, but we normally don't.
No, it takes too much time. I think we're right now society is too focused on the quick wins, instant gratification, things like that, rather than
And
being patient, which will get you what you want even better if you are.
and if we're impatient and we continue to behave like that, all it's going to do is create fear.
Yeah. And then we are creating our own issues.
Right.
You know?
Exactly right.
We're not getting ourselves out of the hole. We're digging
We're
ourselves
digging
to it.
deeper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Very true.
So we only have about 3 minutes left. Michael, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I think we all can learn a lot. I talked about being self-analytical at night and so on, not because you're your own worst critic, but rather because you're your own best teacher. And we're the ones that have to teach ourselves what we want and what we want to expect from ourselves. But we have to do that, and we have to learn what to do, and we all can make that happen. I do seriously believe that we ought to learn to live more like a guide dog, or like any dog. We don't need to worry about every little thing that comes along. We do have control over how we deal with whatever we see happening to us in our lives, and we have to make the choices as how to deal with it, and as a result, then also deal with the consequences. And hopefully, the more people think about that as they go forward in life, the more positive their results will be. But I really believe that we can control fear, make it a very positive tool in our lives. And that's what Live Like a Guide Dog is really all about.
Well, you certainly lived that experience. And now I am going to share that one story that makes me laugh.
Okay.
That you were, I think you were about 10 or 11, somewhere around there. And you were, believe it or not, riding your bike home, and your dad gets a phone call from a neighbor who's rather nervous and upset, I guess, that his blind son is riding a bicycle around the neighborhood. I actually laughed out loud at that. And I thought, wow, now talk about facing a fear
Well,
and overcoming a challenge. And it's like,
well, think
wow,
about it this way. So the neighbor called, and my dad said, well, okay. So he was riding his bike around the neighborhood. And the neighbor said, no, I'm not talking about the kid who can see. I'm talking about the blind kid. My dad said, well, did he get hurt? Well, no. Did he hurt anyone? No. Did he run into anything? No. Did he have any problems? No. Then what's the problem? And the neighbor got so mad he just hung up. But the reality is that's what people think. They're so locked into one thing or another. If you get a chance, go to a website. It's called blinddriverchallenge.org. And on that website, you're going to see a couple of videos, one of which is about a gentleman who's totally blind, a vehicle around the Daytona Speedway right before the January 2011 Rolex 24 race. It was using technology. He wasn't being told what to do by anyone. It wasn't an autonomous vehicle. He was literally driving it like you drive. He got the information from other sources, and you'll see all about it on the website. But the reality is, blind people could do that too. Um, you and I are going to be in London together later this month, and that'll be a lot of fun. Alamo and I are going to come over, and we'll see what we do, but we're going to have a good time getting there, and there's no reason that we can't do it just like anyone else.
yeah. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
I am looking forward as well.
Michael, thank you so much for sharing your time and your experiences with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity. Love to do it again sometime.
And once again, congratulations on the new book.
Thank you, and I hope people will get it. You can get it anywhere books are sold. And Thunderdog, the true story of a blind man And his Guide Dog and the Triumph of Trust at Ground Zero, which was a #1 New York Times bestseller, is also out there. So get it as well. And please review them. We appreciate that.
Yeah, will do. Thank you so much once again. And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.